Hi guys, welcome to another video. In the first video I showed you how to make the pattern, and here is how to sew and put your jacket together. Now the first thing you need to do is to notch your waist area. Now this is my back pattern. I will notch the waist area and also the hemming bottom allowance of my jacket length. And now you also need to make sure that you do the same for your front pattern. On the waist area, I will place my darts measurements, and now I will just go on and connect my notched lines. Next thing you need to do is to measure your darts on your pattern so as to know where to place your darts on your fabric. Now measure this middle line to the edge of your pattern. Now place what you get right there, and I will take 6 inches for the length of my darts, which I placed on my pattern, and I will also do the same at the up parts. Now I will just go on and connect my dart lines and my ½ inch on both sides. Now you need to make sure you do the same for the back of your jacket, because you have 2 pieces for the back of your jacket. Now you also need to make sure you do the same on your front jacket. Place your darts on your front jacket, and I'll go in and sew my darts for my front jacket. Now for the lining and the facing of the front, you're going to join it together like this and join it by ½ inch all the way down like this. And you're also going to do the same for the other piece of the front lining. And in case you want your facing to have a little bit of stiffness, you can iron your fusible interfacing to it. Now for the back lining, you're going to go in and stitch your darts for the both, and you're going to join the 2 backs together like this, and you're going to stitch and join it together by ½ inch. You're also going to do the same thing for the fabric of the back. You're going to sew the darts and also join the 2 backs together and stitch by ½ inch. Now as you can see, I have stitched the darts for the back and also joined the back piece together, as you can see, and I also trimmed down any little seam I had there. Now for the front, as you can see, I have also stitched the darts, and now next thing I'm going to do is to join my 2 front jackets together and join the collar together by ½ inch. Now this is the lining of the back, and as you can see, I have stitched my darts and also joined the 2 center backs together. And as you can see, I have joined the 2 colors of my front jacket together. Now next thing I will do is to place the collar joining to the center back joining of my lining and make sure that they match. Now I will join the neckline of the front to the neckline of the back, and also the shoulders of the front to the shoulders of the back, and I will stitch from one end of the shoulder to the other end of the shoulder. Now I will do the same thing I did on my lining to my jacket. Place the joining of the front collar to the joining of the center back, and also place the shoulder of the front to the shoulders of the back. Now we're going to go in and join the shoulders first together by ½ inch. And then we're going to join our necklines together, front and back neckline, and join by ½ inch. And once you're done stitching, make sure you place your notches on your jackets, and also make sure you do the same for your lining. Now as you can see, I am done stitching my lining, and I have also placed my notches, and I also did the same for my fabric jackets. Now the next thing we're going to do right here is to place our pockets, and you're going to do this on the waist line. As you can see, I am connecting the notches I made on my fabric. So basically your pocket is going to sit right at the center where your dart is. The measurement of the pocket I am using is 5.5 inches, but you can use 5 inches. Now you're just going to follow this dart line, and you're going to divide that 5.5 inches or 5 inches into two. Now if you're using 5 inch, you're going to divide it into two, which is going to be 2.5 plus 2.5. Now take 2.5 at one side of your dart, and also take 2.5 at the other side of your dart. That is 2.5 inches. Now as you can see, we have gotten our pocket opening, and I'll just go in and place my pocket. I have a detailed tutorial on how to make a pocket. I'll put the link below, just below this video, and also in the comment section. You can go and watch that. And I'll also make sure I do my pocket on the other side of my front jacket. Now as you can see, I am done with my jacket pockets, and you can see how neat and nice this is looking. If you want to know how to make these pockets, do check the link in the description box below, just below this video, on how to make a very nice and neat pocket like this. Now next thing we're going to do right now is to bring in our sleeve, and we're going to fold the sleeve over like this, so as to notch the middle, so as to get where the middle of the sleeve is. Now we're going to join that notched part to the shoulder joining of the jacket, and we're going to go on and join our sleeve by 1/2 inch and also by 1/2 inch. Now you're going to also do the same for the other side of your jacket. Fold over your sleeve and join the sleeve together, and also make sure you do the same for the lining. Now the difference with the lining is, when joining your sleeve, you need to make sure that you leave about 8 inches opening on your sleeve, and I will show you what I mean by that after stitching. Now as you can see, I am done joining the sleeve to the jacket. Now I will place the good sides of my front jacket to the good sides of my back jacket like this. Now the next thing you will do is to take your bust measurement divided by 2 and mark your seam allowance. Do the same thing for the waist. Take your waist circumference divided by 2 and mark your seam allowance. Do the same thing for the length. Take your length measurements divided by 2 and mark your seam allowance. Now you're going to stitch from your sleeve. You're going to stitch your seam allowance from your sleeve all the way and stitch all the way down to your jacket length. You stitch your seam allowance all the way down to your jacket length, and also do the same for the other side of your jacket. And you're also going to do the same thing for the lining. Join the good sides of the front jacket to the good sides of the back jacket, and join from the sleeve all the way down, and also do the same for the other side. Now this is the opening I was talking about when I said you should leave about 8 inches opening on your sleeve lining. This opening will help you to turn out your fabric when everything has been closed up. Now moving on. Now at this point you need to get your shoulder pads. Now this is the shoulder pad I am using, and you can use any shoulder pad of your choice. Now I will place my shoulder pads right at the joining of my sleeve, at my shoulder joining, and I'll place it like this, and I'm going to stitch at the same part. Now I would also do the same thing for this one. Make sure that you do not stitch right here. Make sure your stitch is right on the shoulder seam fabric. Now I'm going to stitch this fabric to my shoulder pad, and I'm going to just to hold the shoulder pad intact, and also do the same for this other piece. Now the next thing I am going to do is to join my jackets together, good sides together, join the collar of the lining to the collar of the fabric and pin. Now you're going to join the hem, the bottom hems together, join the seams, the joint seams together and pin. And once you're done pinning, you're going to stitch all the way from one end to the other end. As you can see, I am done stitching. Now the next thing you're going to do is to fold over the jacket. Fold it over by the hemming allowance you placed on your pattern. Doing this is very necessary because it helps to give your fabric a very nice and neater finishing at the good side of your fabric. Now I am going to show you when you do not fold over what you would get. Now I'm just going to go in and pin this a little. Now when you turn this over, this is what you get. This is what your edge is going to look like, and in some cases your facing might start pulling downwards, and that is not the look we are going for. Now let me show you what happens when you fold this over by your hemming allowance, and we're just going to pin that, and when you turn it over you can see how beautiful that looks. Now we're just going to go in and fold that, and we're going to just start pinning all the way up. Join your collars together, and you're going to pin, and also pin all the way down to this other side, and also fold this over by the hemming allowance and also pin. Now as you can see, I am done pinning, and next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sew and follow my collar shape and stitch by 1/2 inch by the seam allowance I placed on my pattern. Now as you can see, I have made all the stitches and everything is now closed up. And now the next thing you're going to do right now is make sure that your lapel is top stitched. Now we're going to make a top stitch on this lapel. Now I had to put this on my mannequin just to show you what a top stitched lapel looks like and what a non-top stitched lapel looks like. Now as you can see this lapel, you can see how flat it looks because I haven't stitched it yet. I only pinned it on the other side. Now as you can see this, you can see the other fabric is pulling through, as you can see. But once you top stitch, this is going to lay flat and nice. You don't just go in and iron it. You need to make your stitches on this. Now I'm also going to show you this part. Now you can see what this part looks like. You can see this part is looking nicer than this part. This part have not yet been top stitched, but you can see that there is a difference between this and this one. Now I am going to show you what I did on this side to this side. Now I haven't made any stitches yet. I only pinned everything down. Now I made a notch around this part, and I am also going to make a notch right here at the break point part. Now this notch will help you to be able to walk around your fabric. Now next thing I'm going to do right now is I am going to place this over at the facing part, and I am going to pin this. just place your seam over at the facing and pin. And now I'm going to place this collar part on the fabric and pin. Now what we're going to do is we're going to stitch from that notched part of the collar to the other end of the collar all the way. Now once you're done stitching, your stitches are going to show underneath your collar. That is on the good side of your collar, but underneath it. Now at this point you need to know if you want to use a sewing machine to stitch this, or you want to use your hand needle to stitch this. Now using your hand needle, you need to make sure that your stitches do not show on the other side of your fabric. Now it's left for you to decide what you want to do, but I am going to use a sewing machine to do this using the color of thread that matches my fabric. Now as you stitch, make sure you have no fabric underneath, and also make sure you spread open your fabric so as not to have ruffles underneath your stitches. Now as you can see, I am done stitching, and this is what your stitches should look like. The stitches should not be very far from the stitch you already have there. Now I'm just going to go in and finish this one using my hand needle, and I'm just going to do this off camera so as not to make this video any longer than it already is. Now for the collar part, you can see that this collar is separate. Now we need to join these collars together so as to keep them together intact. Now I am just going to bring this over like this, right from where your shoulder starts, and also where your neckline stops, and also bring this lining part over like this. Now you're going to match the necklines together and also the collar joinings together, and you're going to stitch just at the top right here at the same fabric. Now once you're done stitching, you should have this, and as you can see, the colors are now intact. And now what we are left with is to join the sleeve together. That's it. Now when joining the sleeve, make sure your lining is not wrapped up like this, and also your sleeve, make sure it's not wrapped up. Now just make sure that the seam of your sleeve jacket matches with the seam of your sleeve lining. Now you're going to place the seams together, the seam of the jacket to the lining, place it like this together, and you're going to pin all around this. And once you're done pinning, you're going to stitch all around this, and you're also going to do the same for the other side of the sleeve. Make sure to sew by the allowance you placed on your sleeve. Now once you're done joining your sleeve, next thing you're going to do is to fold over this opening you left on the sleeve, and you're just going to sew this opening closed. Now as you can see, this is what the finished look of my lining looks like. This is what the inner part of my jacket is looking like right now, and this is what the outer part looks like. And I am just going to go in and use my iron and give this a very nice press. And now the next thing you're going to do is to make your buttonhole and also sew in your button. I have a detailed tutorial on how to do this. If you don't know how to make a buttonhole, please go and watch that and learn how to make a buttonhole on anything you are making. Now I'm going to put this on and show you the finished look.